most interesting guy who's gotten the endorsement of the Republican State Committee and Governor Corbett, who told me that face-to-face last week. He is a local entrepreneur who's been very successful with 2 small businesses. Joining us is the guy who's been endorsed again by the Republican State Committee and Governor Corbett to run against Bob Casey, Jr. Let's go to Steve Welsh. Hey, Steve, welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Dom, thanks for having me.
Well, Steve, talk a little bit about Steve Welsh. You're an entrepreneur from Chester County. What kind of businesses have you run?
Sure. Well, my background's a little different, as you can tell from most that run for office. Actually, I have an engineering degree. Went to Penn State. A couple years out of school, started a company in Phoenixville called Mitos, and we ended up manufacturing the back-end systems that are used to make a lot of the vaccines and biological drugs that are in the marketplace today. Didn't know any better as a 23-year-old, so I bootstrapped that business and was fortunate over about a decade turned it into a global business. Now, after I sold that, it's still in Phoenixville, owned by Parker Hannifin. After I sold it, though, I realized, I'm an engineering geek at heart. I love building products. I love seeing the need in the marketplace. So I wanted to start a company that would help others do that same thing. So I started a company in Philadelphia called Dream It Ventures. And at Dream It, we help young entrepreneurs. We help people literally take an idea on a napkin in a very short, intense period of time, help them turn that into a viable business. The last 4 years, we've turned out 64 companies from that program. Been featured in Wall Street Journal, Forbes, kind of a new model for American innovation. And it's really those experiences. The more you're around people that are starting a business from scratch, and to your listeners, I encourage you, anybody you know that owns a business, ask them how they got started. It's almost always an amazing story. It is physically, it is emotionally grueling. It is 100-hour weeks at a time. And I think we have a government that has taken that process that is very difficult under the best of circumstances and is making it darn near impossible. And that's one of the reasons I've decided to get involved in politics.
Now, with that kind of background, that's certainly the type of person, without putting you in a box of Mitt Romney, the type of credential and this sort of thing. And Bob Casey has none of that. He's always been in government, handed down from his dad, without a doubt. That's quite a contrast. So tell me, how does a guy that entrepreneurial end up voting for Barack Obama? Then maybe the worst thing, I guess, in my view, because, I don't like the guy supporting Joe Sestak.
Well, so I voted for John McCain. There's a lot of misinformation out there. I'll give you my entire political past because I think it is important to the voters. From the time I was 18 years old on, I was registered a Republican. The first campaign I ever worked on, I stuffed envelopes for Joe Pitts. And Joe Pitts out of Chester County, Lancaster County.
Yeah, listeners know him 100% almost in a conservative bona fides, without a doubt.
Absolutely, and I think he's somebody that, and we'll kind of walk through the past of the Republican Party, but continued to live up to his principles even when a lot of Republicans abandoned those principles. 2005, I'll take you forward to 2005. I was, literally working 100-hour weeks, building my business. I was not politically engaged at the time. I was 28 years old. I was very frustrated with a Republican Party that had the White House, had the presidency, had the House of Representatives, and yet I will tell you it failed. We blew up the size of government more than any other administration had to date. I think we abandoned our core principles, and I switched my registration purely out of frustration and protest. At no point was I a Democrat in anything other than name only. The only Democrat I've ever supported in 2006, it's true, I did support Joe Sestak. I gave him $300. He was somebody that at the time was talking about being fiscally responsible and being and balancing the budget, which at that time I think were critically important. Now, he clearly was not those things. That's why, if you'll remember, in 2009, after the stimulus package was voted on, I came running back to the Republican Party, and I came running back committed not just to being a member of the party, but being committed to making sure the party.
But Steve, let me ask you. Okay, and I agree with you about George Bush particularly. It was fiscally irresponsible. Denny Hastert, the guys in the Senate, the House blew things without a doubt. But in your mind at that time, you thought the Democrats were an alternative to that?
No, I think I was protesting. If I had it to do over again, Dom, I would have clearly got involved at that time. Unfortunately, I was working tremendous hours at that point. That's no excuse. If I had it to do over again, I would have gotten involved in the Republican Party at that time and helped change it. But I made a mistake, and I'm here to try to fix that mistake. I believe in redemption, but in my mind, part of redemption is you have to be willing to do what you can to get rid of past mistakes, and that's why I'm committed to making sure, as a party, we don't abandon our conservative principles. I'll tell you what's exciting is, I'm not alone. If you really looked, the Obama presidency woke up, hundreds of thousands of people across this country that were frustrated with the path of the overall country that are now engaged for the first time. And I think as a country, we realize we cannot continue to have these career politicians, these guys down there that have no frame of reference, that just don't understand how to do anything other than run for office. And you're seeing a new breed of person get involved in politics, and it's a lot of people that have started business from scratch, that understand the economy from the ground up, and that's what's so exciting.
Okay, we're talking with Steve Welsh, who is the state committee, and Governor Corbett told me personally last week, endorsed candidate. How about 2008, though? What was the Obama vote about?
I was registered as a Democrat at the time, and you choose between the lesser of two evils, so I pulled that ticket the way I thought it was. At no point was I a supporter of Obama in any way, shape, or form. Supported John McCain. Why
were you registered as a Democrat at that time, Steve?
It goes back to the past. In 2005, I switched out of protest, and just happened to be that way. I switched back a couple days after the stimulus package was voted on, when it was clear that we were going to take bad policies of expansion of government and we were going to, accelerate those. And that point got involved, like a lot of people. At that point was really what got me involved in politics, which is clearly we were going to go down a path of massive expansion of government at a point when we couldn't afford it. I mean, right now we have 102% debt to GDP ratio. That means all 310 million people, everything they're doing for an entire year, that's the size of the federal debt. This is unconscionable where we're at as a country. And I think we need people that are going to go down there and they're not career politicians, that are going to be willing to make some very difficult decisions that lie ahead of us.
Steve Welsh, what would you say are the vulnerabilities? What are the areas with Bob Casey Jr. that you think you would challenge best given your background?
Well, I think it's being able to point out, if you look at Bob Casey when he ran in 2006, it's actually quite comical now. I mean, he talked about actually balancing the budget. His claim to fame was he was going to be an independent voice for the people of Pennsylvania. This is a guy that has voted in lockstep with the liberals in his party. He has voted with Obama 98% of the time. That's really hard to do. I mean, for your listeners, I challenge you over the next week, go and those of you that are married, figure out how often you agree or disagree with your wife. And I suspect you'll probably disagree with your wife more than 2% of the time. And what you see from that is this is a guy that clearly is not thinking for himself. He's not thinking for the people of Pennsylvania. He is voting in lockstep with leadership in his party, and it is time for an independent voice. It is time for people that can think for themselves and are going to do what's right for this country as opposed to what's right for their political career. I think that is the fundamental argument we will be making. I think it's also, if you look at Casey's record, first of all, when he ran in 2006, he didn't have much of a record. Now that record's clear, he's different than he represents himself. This is a guy, when he has broken with the president, believe it or not, he's broken to the left of the president.
Give me an example of something you've seen him going to the left of the president. Yeah.
He's one of 3 senators that voted against defunding ACORN.
Right.
He is one of a handful of senators that voted against the free trade agreements with South Korea, Colombia, and Panama. I mean, so this is a guy that believes in big government. This is a guy that does not believe in free trade. And I will tell you, those that don't believe in free trade don't believe in the American people. I've been in manufacturing plants on almost every continent, and I will tell you, there's still no question we are the most innovative. We are the hardest working. We are the most productive society in the world. And if you believe that, as I do, you have to ask yourself, why are we shedding jobs? And I think the reason for that, as you really dig in, is we have a government that is pricing us out of the global marketplace through the hidden tax of regulation, layer upon layer of government bureaucrat that is interfering with free markets and business. When you hire all these politicians or bureaucrats and you have all the spend going through Washington, those guys have to figure out something to do with their time. And right now they spend most of their time making life miserable for those that are actually going out and creating jobs. And that's structurally what's changed over the last decade and is what's making us less competitive in a global environment. It has nothing to do with American entrepreneurs and business. We are still... I read 1,000+ business plans a year. I assure you, there is no shortage of innovation in this country. Absolutely not. We're still nowhere else do they hold a candle to the United States innovation. But we do have a government that is starting a business from scratch more difficult. They've killed capital formation. They've killed the ability to have money go into early stage businesses. And I think again, it comes back to the fact that we have so few people in Washington that have ever done anything. They can't understand the unintended consequences of all these decisions
exactly
they make.
Right. Hey, Steve, is there a website? What is the Steve Welsh website for listeners to go and check this out?
Sure. Welch, WELCH, 4PA, FORPA.com. And we're having a lot of fun, Dom. Hopefully you'll come down and check out the campaign office. We're really bringing in so many of the people that have been disenfranchised by the political process over the last decade are getting involved in this campaign, and we'd love to have you involved.
Well, I will be at the debate. I'll be one of the people asking questions, the Pennsylvania Leadership Conference debate in March.
Looking forward to it.
We'll see you then. Thank you, Steve.
All right.
Thanks for joining us today. Steve Welsh with us, all right?